Morning, good morning, good morning. If you are just discovering this channel, my name is Liam Murphy. Today, we are going to be doing a NFL Pick'em show on Underdog Fantasy. So going forward, every Friday, going to have an NFL Pick'em show, looking through the Underdog Fantasy lines for the main slate on the week. Gonna have a guest most weeks, I think, for this. I think it'll just be fun like that. It won't only be Pick'em on today. We're going to recap the game. We're going to talk best ball. We'll probably get some battle royales in, but let's get this thing. All right. So quickly, I think we'll recap last night's game before we jump into the Pick'em lines. What's up, Suan? What's up, Joe? Pretty big game for my best ball exposures. I had 20% Hawkinson on Underdog and BBM4, maybe more. I never understood the hate for him. I thought he was live before the season to beat Andrews as a fantasy tight end. Just with, Kirk Cousins is going to throw for more yards per game than Lamar. And Andrews has more target competition this year. So we're going to see how that sorts out. Not great that Andrews is going through health concerns. Obviously wish that he's going to be better. I think he's going to play this week, but don't know. So love to see the Hawk game. Now, the Vikings, they're in a little bit of trouble. They're 0-2. I don't see them trading Kirk Cousins to the Jets midseason unless they got like a first-round pick, maybe 2 first-round picks. They are 0-2. If Kirk stays a Viking, you got to be excited for every piece of the Vikings pass game because there's going to be a lot of garbage time potentially. They don't look like a great team. So like huge games for Jefferson, Addison, Hawk, pretty condensed offense. I think Osborne should fade away over the course of the season. And I didn't draft really like any Alexander Madison. Feeling real happy about that. He looked not great. I mean, it was a tough matchup. The Philly defensive line and their secondary is not great. But yeah, so if you're not up and running on Underdog Fantasy, make sure you use my promo code ChessLiam. It will get you a $100 deposit match. Shout out to MH said, I just joined Underdog with your code. Been hesitating for a while, but a free $100 is nice with the ChessLiam code. Jets are getting Taysom Hill. Oh man, Jets get Taysom Hill would like legit break fantasy. On the Eagles side, disappointing game for A.J. Brown. What the Vikings did is they essentially said, you know what? We're going to – because what the Vikings defense usually does is with Brian Flores is it blitzes a lot. And I think what they decided is we would rather lose by the run game than the pass game. And you see the only time that they did not just sit their safeties deep in the field – Philly did like Hurts hit a touchdown to Devonta Smith and AJ Brown got a touchdown that was wiped away by Rashad Penny, RIP. And he got another look that just went through his fingertips. So better days ahead will be for AJ Brown. Teams are going to need to decide, and like teams do this quite a bit where they just sit their safeties back and they're like, beat us on the run, beat us with the run. And Philly showed with their O-line, they can do that. Like Swift had a great game, but that was the O-line that just was like paving way for him. So big game for Swift. Happy for my bags there. Again, I just drafted 2x the field on Gainwell, Penny, and Swift in BBM4. So I think that was the way to play it for me. Feel good about that. They get the Cardinals week 17. Hurts, 2 rushing touchdowns. Big game for him. Goddard, I always thought Goddard was a little overvalued. He'll have some big games too. And this just shows you, like, I put a poll out on Twitter, whose points were more valuable in best ball? Hawkinson's 22 half-point PPR points or DeAndre Swift's 26 half-point PPR points? And to me, if you look at that from a weekly lens, as in how do I score the most points this week, Hawkinson teams are far more likely to be the higher scoring teams this week, in my opinion, because simply due to the points above replacement. Whereas, like, okay, Swift scored 26. So if instead of Swift, you have Tyler Algier or Kyron Williams or Josh Kelly or Rashad White, or take any running back, if that running back can score 20 points versus Swift's 26, okay, so that's a 6-point gap. But Hawkinson scored 22. And if instead of 22 points at your tight end slot, teams are having to sort in Hunter Henry's 8 points or, Logan Thomas's 5 points or, take any type, Juwan Johnson's 10 points. That is a 12-point gap, a 14-point gap, so it's just about how many more points above replacement. And when an elite tight end does go off in a given week, such as if a tight end goes off week 17 in the finals, it's hard to win without him. So that's why I think elite tight end can both be a high advance rate thing. If Hawkinson keeps on scoring a lot of points this season, he's going to advance a lot of teams. And even if he doesn't, we know that he has the weekly ceiling. He got a touchdown in garbage time. That's fantasy. The Vikings are going to maybe have a lot of garbage time touchdowns. So that's it for recapping the game. Let's share my screen here. Once again, we're going to be going a pick'em show. And this is not going to be the longest show in the world. It's going to be, I'm going to get more advanced with this in future weeks. But if you just want to do 1 or 2 pick'ems for pretty low dollar amount, I highly recommend you use some of the featured ones that Underdog gives here. There's a max amount of dollars you can bet on this. So, for example, if I take Joe Burrow higher than half a yard and I pair him with Mahomes higher than 296.5 passing yards, the max I can bet on that is $10. But that this is pretty much free money on the Joe Burrow side, unless something happens to him like what happened to Aaron Rodgers. And so you're really only sweating the Mahomes side. And yeah, you can't bet a lot on this. For example, if I chose instead of Joe Burrow, you have to choose another team. If I did higher than ETN, 57.5 rushing yards, the max I can bet on that is 1,000. So they don't let you understandably bet a lot if you use their featured free pick promos. But that's a good option if you're doing $5, whatever, $10. You might as well take the free ones. You can do one with Burrow, you can do one with Tyreek, and you just really only have to hit one prop. So what I'm going to go through is I'm going to go through pretty much the whole lobby here. And for this show, I'm just going to hit on the ones that I feel have a really strong chance of hitting. And from an ROI perspective, counterintuitively, I saw someone post about this on Twitter. I think actually 5-pick parlays are your strongest from an ROI. So I'm just going to throw 5 on here. There are rules, like I don't know how correlated you're allowed to make things, but if I just throw 5 in here, you can see that is a 20x your payout. So if I bet $1,000, I would get 20,000 if this hits. If I bet $100, I would get $2,000. So if you must at least do 2 players. So a 2-pick parlay or 2-pick slip gets you 3x a bet. A 3-pick gets you 6x. A 4-pick gets you 10x. and a 5 pick gets you 20x. And then you can also insure, which lessens your payout, but also allows you to get one wrong. So however you want to play that. But I'm going to go through the lobby. I'm going to talk about the players I feel best about. I did not prep for this. We're doing this live. In future weeks, I think I may work with some data tools, but this is just going to be me applying logic. I think early in the season, things we want to be looking for is where it's tough for projections to bake in things. For example, last night, if you said, hey, I think DeAndre Swift's going to be the starting running back pretty handily, his like rushing yard prop was like 33 yards. So that was like a smash over example. So we want to be taking advantage of situations like that. But let's go through this again. Promo code Cheslian will get you up and running with a $100 deposit match. I'm going to end the show with a 5-pick parlay, a 5-pick slip that if you want to tail with me, go ahead. You know, I'm gonna do it for $100. You can do it for $5, $1, $10, whatever you want. Also, if you haven't already and you're just looking at pick'ems, make sure, not financial advice, so only do this if you want, but make sure you do a slip with Tua, because there's a Tua one in there where 10 winners will get $10,000, and it doesn't need to win. So you can bet a dollar on that. That's the lowest you can bet. That would be my recommendation. But all right, so let's just go through this. Like things like 297 passing yards, I'm not fooling around with that unless I have a really strong lean. 12.5 receiving yards on Pacheco is interesting because he got quite a bit of workload last week. The real question to me, though, is like how much McKinnon's going to play. So we're going to pass on that. I don't know the defensive guys enough. Ridley higher than 68.5 receiving yards. I'm going to put that one in there for now for our 5-pick. Seems like a pretty low number for Calvin Ridley. I mean, so does 38.5 for Christian Kirk. Like this is another thing I think we want to look on is like Christian Kirk had a terrible game last week. Better weeks ahead. Now, the Chiefs play a lot of press defense, and most of the Jags pass catchers are bad against press, and Calvin Ridley is not. He's like an elite press cover, press wide receiver beater. So that's good for Ridley, but I don't know. Are they going to double cover Calvin and say beat us with other guys? We're going to keep Calvin in there for now. Like he's going to be a chalk DFS guy. I think this is a good way to play the chalk too, is just like take their over. If he gets hurt, he gets hurt. It's going to lose, but let's keep going here. Nothing. And not every player has a prop. You can see there's nothing on Zay Flowers, probably because they're just uncertain on it. I'm going to stay away from the Joe Burrow thing until we get more clarity there. Although this like 80 receiving yards for Jamar Chase might be his like lowest of the season. 6.5 kicking points seems pretty high, but again, that's not a gold star lock play, quote unquote, or whatever people say. 56.5 receiving yards for Mike Williams is very tempting to me because to me, the Tennessee secondary, and this is why I played some Rashid Shaheed last week in daily fantasy, is the Tennessee secondary is awful, like flat out awful. And you can beat them deep quite easily. We saw Olave beat them deep. We saw Rashid beat them deep. Now, the only thing that gives me pause about Mike Williams is he suffered that head injury. He came back and played, though. So I'm assuming he's like 100% fine. And it just seems like if I type Mike Williams Mike Williams on Twitter, of course, we get the ex-NFL wide receiver who passed away. RIP to him. I don't know. I'm gonna put this one in here for now. 56.5 receiving yards for Mike Williams. The Titans D is hard to run the ball on. They might not have Austin Eckler. So I like 56.5 receiving yards for Mike Williams, who it's pretty clear like Keenan is the alpha there, but Mike Williams got like 50 receiving yards last week against the 5 targets, 4 catches, 45 yards against the Dolphins, who the Dolphins are a run funnel. And I think that the Titans are going to be a heavy pass funnel. So unless they do something like the Vikings did, which is like, it's hard to know when a coach is just going to be like, you know what, beat us with the run game. That just does not seem the Viking style. So for now, we're going to put Mike Williams 56.5 receiving yards in there. Keep on going here. This is a tempting under for me. 85.5 rushing yards. Why I'm tempted to take the under on that is Derrick Henry pretty much split work with Tajay Spears last week. Now, on the other hand, the Chargers defense was just god-awful everywhere. And so that makes it a scary under to take. But let's keep on going. My take on the Seahawks this week is they could really struggle in fantasy, where they're going to miss both their offensive tackles, I believe. That's not good. I'm firing up Detroit's defense, probably in daily fantasy, quite a bit, who I think Detroit's defense is also a lot better. Now, this game is historically shot out, so that makes it tough, but some unders on like Geno Smith passing yards may be the move, where I don't have to fool around with, Lockett was awful last week. Jason wasn't much better. Metcalf was great until he returned. Metcalf was great until they lost the tackle, so I don't know. That's a tempting under, but let's keep looking. This is another spot, the Gibbs-Montgomery spot. There's a lot of coach speak from Dan Campbell about Jahmyr Gibbs getting more work this week. So that makes me want to take the higher. Last week, obviously, his usage was low. 7 carries, 42 yards, 2 catches, 18 yards. The good news is he looked absolutely electric. I think higher than 34.5 rushing yards is how I want to play it, if I do play it, because Seattle has very bad D tackles. They can be beat with the run game. Just like playing running backs against Seattle, I think is going to be the move. It's why I drafted a lot of Steeler running backs for best ball, because they play week 17. So I'm tempted to go either 34.5 higher on Gibbs or 56.5 higher on Montgomery. Because like Montgomery got 21 attempts last week. Kyron Williams got like 15 attempts, and Cam Akers got a bunch of attempts. So taking one of either 34.5 higher rushing yards for Gibbs or 56.5 higher for Montgomery, one of those is tempting to me. Trying to decide like which one I'd rather do. Like let's say Gibbs gets 10 rushing attempts now. So we need him to average 4 yards a carry to get over 34.5. The question is, if Seattle is getting blown out in this game, what is Detroit going to do? Because I see two sides of that coin. Side one, like the obvious thing to say is, in a blowout, we're going to see a lot of Montgomery because they want Montgomery to get hit. They don't want Gibbs to get hit. They want to save Gibbs for later in the season. On the other side, though, if Detroit is blowing out Seattle, what they might do is they might say, you know what? Unlike last week where we were facing a lot of pass rushers and that's why Montgomery played so much, this is a good game to get Gibbs some workload, So I'm trying to get inside the head of the coach there. I think also, guys, stop betting this number higher on me. God damn. I think also Dan Campbell seeing that DeAndre's like the Lions coaches seeing DeAndre Swift had a huge game is kind of some like, we need to give Gibbs a huge game. So we're going to put Gibbs in there for now. These numbers could move on me if they're bet, I guess. It is updated live, but we're going to put that on there. You want to be taking some unders in props generally because you can get there via an injury, via whatever, but fuck it. We got overs only in there for now. Honestly, I feel good about both of these. So if you'd rather do Montgomery than Gibbs, go for it. But, 10 carries for Gibbs, 4 yards a rush. That seems pretty easy for him to do as long as he's not getting pulled in the fourth quarter. I like all the Detroit lines, honestly. Like 33.5 receiving yards for Laporta. It's pretty nice. The only one I think I would take on Green Bay is the 31.5 receiving yards for Musgrave. They might be a tight end funnel. They have decent secondary. Don't think Christian Watson's going to play. So, like, getting ahead of Christian Watson getting ruled out where these numbers might go up could be the play there. 218.5 passing yards for Love also seems low, but we're not going to put that one in there yet. Because when you're doing a 5 pick, you really want to pick 5 you feel like really, really, really good about. 17.5 receiving yards for Bijan seems really low. If this is going to be the Falcons' offense with him getting like 10 to 15 carries a week, whatever, 4 to 8 targets a week, something like that. Like, he could do this on 1 catch, so we'll come back to Bijan, but 7.5 receiving yards seems pretty low there. Like, this is one where like this number could be closer to like 30 or 40 in future weeks if he keeps on getting those targets. But Atlanta played the Panthers week 1, and maybe that's how they target their defense. So I don't know. We'll come back there. All of the, under is tempting for London and over is tempting for Pitts just because he can do it on like 2 catches. Man, 175.5 passing yards is really low, guys. And Tampa, I don't think the Tampa second. I think the Tampa might be a pass funnel where it's hard to run the ball on them. It's easier to pass on them. There was some coach speak already about Fields saying, "Hey, I got to give my receivers a better chance down the field." He just didn't take any risks passing on the field. So that's a tempting number, but I don't think I'm going to put a Fields over passing prop on this. But come on. He could get this at halftime if he's like, I don't know. Like, maybe it's just better to take DJ Moore higher than 43.5 receiving yards, especially since Chase Claypool may get benched this game. Sorry, Chase Claypool people, but his effort was just not there. And like, you're not giving effort in the NFL, you're going to hit the fucking bench. This is a tempting number. Tremaine Edmonds, higher than 6.5 tackles and assists. Rachaad White's going to get a lot of carries. He had 8 last week against Green Bay. So, I don't know. I think under 54.5 receiving yards is tempting for Godwin. He doesn't seem like the best fit, but don't feel, again, not one of my favorite 100 locks. Let's keep it moving here. I think both Jacobs and Devontae are tempting ones. Jacoby Myers ruled out. Josh Jacobs is just like getting so much work. Buffalo's defense was awful at contain. But, if they make those tackles, Brees doesn't get that game. So, I don't know. I think higher 74.5 receiving yards on Stephon Diggs feels extremely safe. He's just like, with the Bills playing so much 12 personnel, which could have been a game-to-game thing where Deontay Harder gets more, but it's like the pass targets most downs are Knox, Davis, Kincaid or Diggs. So I like Diggs there. Tempted to go higher than 256.5 passing yards for Josh Allen. Only thing that's giving me pause there is Josh blew the game last week by taking those risks downfield, and I hope he doesn't like overcorrect and take a bunch of checkdowns. Kincaid and Knox are both tempting lines as well. And I don't think it's like inhibitive to take two guys in the same on the same team, because it's like Diggs could easily get 120 and Kincaid or Knox get 30. Davis, pretty low line for him too. He would need to do this on like, 5 to 6 big catches. He's a definitely like guy in daily fantasy you should be considering. Wow. 200 passing yards for Richardson, pretty low. He hit 223 last week. This Texans defense a little bit better, though. I think the Granson over is tempting. Got a lot of targets. Let's keep going. Dameon Pierce higher on the rushing numbers is tempting. Just a better game environment for him. They should be in the mix here. $65.5 rushing yards is not a lot for CMC. So that's tempting. Okay, guys. On the Taysom Hill showing as a quarterback now in weekly winner lineups, he is going to get points at tight end. It's just a display error. My guess is what happens is that whoever their stat provider is, since it refreshes each week for week 2, their stat provider has him listed as a quarterback because that's how they do it. But Underdog is going to have him get points at tight end. So we don't need to hear about that anymore. Debo, pretty low number for Debo, 46.5 receiving yards. Let's keep going here. They're cowards. They're not giving us anything on Puka or Tutu. Some Cam Akers unders are pretty tempting, seeing as the first half of that game, Rams versus Seahawks, when the game was competitive, Cam Akers played 4 snaps. He only got in the second half. So, oh man, 173.5 passing yards for Zach Wilson. I think higher than 70.5 rushing yards is a tempting Tony Pollard one. Tough defense. Not really a defense I want to be targeting, but they are more of a run funnel than a pass funnel. Higher than 42.5 is tempting on Jahan Dotson, who Terry should get lined up with Patrick Surtain, and we saw Jacoby Myers go off against Denver against their number 2 corner. So, tempting one there. I'll always be tempted on Russ unders because, he 177 passing yards last week. They're a really paced down team. The Commanders got legit corners. Like their secondary is good, man. So that's a tempting line. I don't know if Judy's playing. Just kind of scrolling the lobby here. Again, if you guys want to do this for you, you can just throw in one of these Tyreek or Joe Burrow free ones if you're just betting $5-10. Like if I throw in Tyreek, the max I can do is 25, which would pay out $500 if we hit on everything. If you're watching this on replay, it's important to say that lines change. So if you're watching this Saturday or Sunday morning, you may not be able to get the same lines. Books adjusting, like Underdog will adjust based on where money is being bet on. I think higher than 33.5 receiving yards against Miami is very tempting. I think Miami is the type of team you want to be playing tight ends against them. They might not have Devontae Parker again. So this is a really low number, 28.5 receiving yards for a guy who's going to be out there a ton in the game. And also Pitt, this is why I played Ayuk in daily fantasy. Pitt is a team that plays man defense quite a bit. And so if DPJ can blow by a corner on one play, which he's a fast guy, he could get there on 2-3 catches. So that's a tempting line. This is a really low number. Under 62.5 rushing and receiving yards for Najee is pretty tempting. Like, that's a pretty high number, especially with Jaylen Warren sharing half of it. I don't know a ton about this Cleveland defense. Like, I know they're good. I don't know if I want to wait all the way to Monday night for the slip either, So that's why I think we might just. All right. So that is the full NFL one. There's a couple I highlighted there that you could slip in for your last one. Someone pointing out that over 70.5 rushing attempts could be sharp for Tony if we think turnovers and whatnot. The only risk is like a blowout. I think for me, I'm going to try to correlate one of these. So either Josh higher than 26 and a 256.5 passing yards. You do need the Raiders to stay somewhat competitive for that to happen. Let's see what Justin Herbert's is. Herbert's 278. It's like that doesn't line up. Like, how is Herbert almost 280, but Mike Williams is 56? Lawrence is 255. Against a not great Chiefs D. The risk with Josh anytime is that he could run, I don't think he's going to run for 40 rushing yards this game, though. I like Trevor and Josh. I also like Kincaid. I like Donovan Peoples-Jones, who I highlighted. We're gonna do Josh and see if they let me, and we're gonna do this one for $100. No insuring. Oh, I can't do Diggs and Ridley because I guess I have another slip with them in. But this is the slip I would do. I don't know how that is. I don't think I have any slips in there. They don't let you bet a certain amount on pick'em slips. Oh, I had one last night with the Eagles guys in them, and so I need that to be graded as a loss before I do this bet. But this is what I would do for now. For now, we're just going to remove Ridley, remove Diggs, remove Josh too, and we're just going to, just so I can get a slip in here for the show, let's add some of those other guys I highlighted. So I think one of the ones I like the most is DPJ. It's a little risky. the other one, and obviously, guys, if you do a 5-pick slip, you need every pick to be right, or you get $0, and that's why it's a 20x multiplier. What were some of my other favorite ones? Yeah, let me know some of your guys' favorite ones in the chat. I think higher on Jahan, and no, let's not do lower on Russ. Let's do lower on Najee. Just bet against Najee every chance we can. Now, the 50 rushing yards versus 62.5 rushing and receiving. Tempted to do this number, but I don't want like 2 or 3 garbage time catches to Najee to bury us. So we're going to do lower on 50 rushing yards. So it's a $100 pick. Let's see if this works. All right, we're in there. So you could have done the first one. I did. I like that one a little bit better, but this is the one we got in there right now. It's higher 56.5 Mike Williams receiving yards, higher 35.5 Gibbs rushing yards, or Montgomery if you'd rather do Montgomery. Higher 28.5 receiving yards for DPJ, and higher 42.5 receiving yards for Jahan Dotson. The only worrisome one about this one is if Patrick Surtain lines up on Dotson instead of what's his face, Terry McLaurin, and then lower 50 rushing yards from Najee, which is like don't beat me, Najee. So I feel pretty good about this slip. You're going to lose more often than not, obviously. And let's see, I can share this, copy it, and put it in the chat if you just want to click on that. If you are not already in my Discord, make sure you join my Discord. Going to have an NFL Pick'em channel where we can highlight our favorite Pick'ems, and I'll post the slip in there. Feel pretty good about this one. Wish I could have got it in with Ridley and Diggs, who feel like good bets to go over this week. The nice thing about these pick fives is you're going to lose more often than not, but you got to be right 1 in 19 times to profit in the long run, right? So if you lose 19 in a row, and let's just use $100, well, let's use $10. I think that's more relatable. 19 in a row at $10 would lose you $190. Or 18 in a row that you lost, meaning you didn't get one correct, you would lose $180. If you got your 19th right, you would make $200. So you would make $20 on that. Now, obviously, if you get 3, 4 right in the span of 25 bet pick'ems, that's how you start profiting. So I think 5 picks can be frustrating if you get 4 right. And so sometimes what some people do is they'll do a bet for they'll do a 5-pick parlay or 5-pick slip, and then they'll also do the same guys in a 4-pick slip, and then they'll also do their 3 favorite in a 3-pick slip. So you can have a really great week that way if all your guys hit. And if you're doing like $10, you won't get limited on the players. So like a $10 pick 5, a $10 pick 4, a $10 pick 3, whatever. Obviously, not financial advice. Bet within your limits. And this is me applying my logic. I don't claim to be a professional pick'em player, but I think I'm decent at this. So that will close our pick'em segment for today. I think before we get out of here, let's see what the dog bowl's at. 8 people. Don't think that's going to fill. Let's jump in a battle royale here. $10, $50K to first. We need 5 if you're looking to draft. In the meantime, We can look at my best ball exposure. Currently going to be advancing a lot of teams, kind of meaningless with only one game. But that's because, again, I got 20% Hawkinson. So my highest scoring team is one of the teams I showed last week on the leaderboard show that will be on Monday. This is my highest scoring team right now, 209 points. This week, it has Swift, it has Jefferson, it has Addison. So it's only looking for a tight end, probably between Kincaid and Musgrave. It's looking for one more wide receiver at least between Ridley, Metcalf, Ayuk, and Mingo. It's looking for one more running back at least between ETN and Gang. Quarterback points. So feel great. This one's going to be in the mix. Awesome. Good luck, Eli Mitchell. You're in. Good luck, Cullen. Yeah, guys, hopefully we can string together some wins and pick them and just ride this sweat out as a community. I think that's how I'd like to do this. You know, we do some pick fives. I'll be sure to not do any pick 'em slips before the Friday show in future weeks so that I can just do a clean bet and not get that Ridley and Diggs image I got. But hope we win here, guys. Be great to win week 1. And in future weeks for the show, I'm going to have some guests. So it's not just my opinions. We can have other opinions around the industry. If you missed it, I think Pat has officially conceded Kincaid. I haven't listened to his full walkthrough yet, but in it, he did right. I'm already chalking up Kincaid's usage as one of my biggest misses of the offseason. I spent approximately 13 hours arguing against Kincaid on live streams, 12.95 hours with Liam and 3 minutes with Mike Leone. Some good jokes there. But yeah, no, jury's still out on him. Calvin Ridley getting one of our wide receiver spots feels nice. Josh Allen, my QB1 on the week. Would take him as much as I could in Battle Royale. Feels nice as well. So in Battle Royale, you need to have one QB, one running back, 2 wideouts, 1 flex, 1 tight end. Payouts this week are $50K to first, $25K to second, $15K to third, $12.5 to fourth. You wouldn't let you get Diggs Allen? Brother, you not only had to worry about me, you had to worry about 2 other people. Good morning, Meatwad. Yeah, no, I like the Kincaid over. I'll have some pick 'em slips. Liam, you look kind of like Josh Allen today. Yeah, I've heard that when I have a mustache, there are times, there's like 2 to 3 times in my life I've been out in the public and people have said I look like Josh Allen. Some have also said I look a little bit like Brock Purdy when I'm clean shaven. Josh Allen, your highest owned QB for the week? Yeah, I mean, I think he's a no-brainer 101. I would much rather play him than Mahomes, Trevor, that tier guys. Other people are going to say Chiefs are the 101 this week, and guess we'll find out. That Raiders D just seems like one we want to pick on. More Allen than Purdy? I mean, Allen and Purdy look a lot alike. Depending on the picture you look at. That's Brock. Let's get a pick in here. Ooh, I like Pollard and ETN. We're going to go with Pollard, though, man. Just bet on the talent of Pollard. Other people are afraid because of the defense. Okay, that's Brock. We need the stock image of Josh. Well, Josh with facial hair is not going to look like Brock. Here's like a more clean shaven. I don't know. They look kind of alike. What do we need here? Wideout and tight end. Wideout, flex, and tight end. Well, we'll grab Ayuk. I like Ayuk and Debo pretty evenly this week. Can you explain the swaps for an injured player? Yeah, I don't know how to set your rankings, but whoever you have, if you draft a guy, like if you draft Austin Eckler and he gets ruled out, and don't take my word for this, this is just what I think it is. I could be wrong. But by the way, guys, if you aren't subscribed, please subscribe. We're on the road to 5K. But my understanding of how the rule works, and just read the rules. You can read Underdog's Twitter too. They've posted about it. But if you draft Austin Eckler and he gets ruled out this week, the site will automatically replace the highest ranked player for you or the highest projected guy who wasn't drafted. If you have your rankings in there, they'll just take the highest ranked guy for you. If you draft a guy, if Austin Eckler was already ruled out and then you draft him, you don't get a replacement because that's on you to know. Someone from Johnny Football's here. St. Brown over 5.5 receptions. Yeah, that seems nice. Gabe Davis over 42 yards. Yep, he could do that easily, like very easily this week. I like that one too. David Montgomery to get a touchdown, basically. Yeah, that's touchdown ones are hard, man. I mean, Mark Andrews is limited, but to get him so far past ADP here, if he's ruled out, whatever, I get a swap. So again, this show's going to be every Friday. I might do Friday night some weeks. And we're going to grab Gabe Davis to stack with Josh. So I like this one quite a bit. We got Josh. We got Tony Pollard. We got Mark Andrews. We got Calvin Ridley. We got Ayuk. And then we got Gabe Davis, who probably does not get drafted at a 100% clip at all. And, like if I didn't have Josh, maybe I go Mike Williams or someone, but obviously want the stack here. I also could have taken like Mike Williams and God Kincaid, but yeah, I like this one quite a bit. Got some fallers. Tony Pollard a faller. Got Mark Andrews a faller. Got Ayuk a faller. So hopefully this wins us 50K. With your Bills knowledge, do you like Adams over 73.5 yards or Jacobs over 66.5 more? I think I'd take Adams if I had to take one. Just think he's going to get like 10 to 12 targets. And Tre'Davious White's good, but like not a world beater by any means. So I think like Garrett Wilson would got the over, but I don't know. The Jacobs one's tempting too, just because of how much workload he's going to get. But yeah, if I had to choose one, I think I'd choose Adams. All right, guys, that's going to do it for our first Pick'em show. Good luck you. Good luck me. Let's have a great week. I will make sure you join my Discord if you haven't. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. I will push out when I'm going to be doing this show next week as well. See you guys by the latest on Tuesday for the Week 2 Leaderboard Show. Peace.